Hello, I'm Georgie Coleridge Cole, and welcome to today's SheerLuxe Middle East Success Stories podcast. I am absolutely delighted to be joined by Dipesh Depala, who is co-founder and managing partner of the Qode. The Qode, we're going to come on to the Qode. The Qode is the original premium luxury and lifestyle communications and events agency in Dubai. It's also part of a global network of agencies in 15 cities worldwide. It specializes in campaigns across the MENA region and India. And you also have offices in Riyadh and clients that include Dior, IWC, Army Nichols. I mean, we could go on because the client list is extremely impressive and endless. Also a lot of F&B as well, I know. You've also raised tens of thousands of pounds for UNICEF. You've lived here for 30 years, Dipesh. You were an early adopter of digital media. I mean, I feel like this is meant to be, if ever there was a success story, it's today. We're here to talk about your career, the lessons you've learned along the way, the fashion and luxury industry, and yeah, thank you so much for joining me.
It's my pleasure.
I feel like we both got the memo. I'm quite often in monochrome, so, it's no surprise, but we're blending in beautifully into this lovely space. A big thank you to QComs for hosting us in their stunning new podcast space. And yeah, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
We often do some warm-up questions to sound check,
Okay.
and then I'm normally cross that that's what we started with up there. Can you tell me what you're wearing today? Because it's kind of look. It's very cool.
Thank you. So I'm wearing Valentino, Jacquemus, and Armani. And Hermes.
Can I just go and do this? Can we just, this is your own curation.
It's it.
Doing.
It is, yes.
I just love it. Amazing.
Thank you.
You bag man.
I am, yes. Very much so.
And that is like it can fit the kitchen sink. Love it. Absolutely love it. So, Dipesh, I've got many things to ask you.
Go ahead.
Can you tell me, first of all, about your background, your heritage, growing up, set the scene?
So I was born in Bombay. My parents moved here in the mid-60s, and then my mum went to Bombay to deliver me and then came right back. And so I've really grown up between the UK and the United Arab Emirates. At that time, it wasn't actually even the United Arab Emirates. So it was really extraordinary. It was beautiful. I mean, it was so sort of raw and so new. And, my father, was really at a time when he was helping to develop country in a way. So it only became a country many years after they moved here.
So the time lapse that I always talk about on YouTube of the growth of Dubai, you actually really witnessed with your own eyes.
Absolutely, very much so.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
And tell me about your education. What did that look like?
My education was in the UK, so I went to a very, very, stiff public school in England, in Hertfordshire,
Right.
and I grew up between there. And then when I finished with my A levels, I went to Switzerland for my university.
Did you?
Yeah, and I was there for sort of over 4 years.
What did you study?
Business and communication.
Gosh. And what year are we in?
I was at
Roughly. Joking, where were you?
1987.
Okay.
Yeah. But, it was really there that I kind of developed my love for, because I was surrounded by very, very glamorous people. So it was a very small university, but they all came from, very sort of, illustrious backgrounds. And so, it was the first time that I really enjoyed the whole process of, dressing up and going out and really enjoying fashion and style.
And what about at home? Had fashion and style been part of your home life? What was your mother's interest or not for fashion and style?
It was very much so, but I wasn't so in tune with it at that time because, I was young and it was, it was more about school and sports and, all of that. So it really wasn't something that I focused on. Of course, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't something that I really focused on. Although I must say that my father had, a lot of style. I mean, he would have a complete wardrobe change every 2 months. So that was, really quite extraordinary, and it was really lovely to see. And he really enjoyed it too. So it was quite a nice sort of entry into the world of, fashion and bespoke fashion and so forth.
And what was his personal style? Was it quite traditional?
Very traditional, tailored, tailored suits, tailored shirts. It was very.
So he liked them crisp and new if he was changing them every 2 months. Yeah, man after my own heart. New trainers once a week, I'd be a happy girl. Are there any events in your early life that you feel, shaped you professionally? Is there anything that stands out when you look back and you're sort of on your younger days?
There really is one outstanding thing, and that is that, I lost my father very early on. So he was, very young. He was 50. It was just after university. That really kind of changed my whole life. And I think I sort of probably aged 15 years in the space of 2. It was a really rude awakening. But it really
And you were in your 20s or something?
Yeah, early, very early. I was 21. So it was really quite a challenge to overcome, and at the same time, support my family because I was the eldest.
How many siblings do you have?
So I have 3 siblings. Yeah. And I understood that it's not just about me, it's about so many other people that I need to look out for. So, you grow up.
I always think that must be such a difficult age to lose a parent. I mean, any age.
Yeah.
But, you're not an adult, but you think you are.
Yeah.
And so you haven't got perhaps the rallying that you do if you were a young child.
Correct.
You don't necessarily have your own family just to sort of
Correct.
work on. So
Correct.
yeah, I've always thought very difficult age. So you left university. What did you do?
Well, so I moved here. So I moved here to start working in the family business.
I see.
Yeah.
I'm dying to get onto Red Velvet Nation. Is in the sequence of events of your success story.
Yeah.
Is that the next sort of major milestone? You left the family business. Had you started Red Velvet Nation alongside it?
Red Velvet Nation started around the same time as we started the Qode. Because what I used to do is, I was invited to everything, all the parties and everything, and and everyone there were my friends.
And how were you invited to all the parties? Was this because you were running this successful family business and you had a great network? Had you just been out there networking? How had you built up this? Because I mean, clearly you were the man and everyone wanted to be associated with Red Velvet Nation.
I'd been here for many, many years. And so over that time, you get to know everyone and you know everyone. It was a small place. And then when I married my wife, Aisha, and then, she was a designer. So we built her business. So there was a time when, the two of us were sort of quite well known. It sort of snowballed from there. And so and I was a customer actually of most of the luxury brands. So I'd be invited to all of the things and I'd meet everyone, and everyone met me. And so it was just, you sort of build your network in that way.
Who was here then?
It was still a very similar mix.
You...
Yeah, it was still a very similar mix. You had Middle Eastern Arabs, you had Indians, you had Pakistanis, you had Persian. I mean, it's very similar, except just a smaller amount. Right. Of course, it's grown incredibly since then. So, that was the heyday. It was really wonderful. It was glamorous. People were dressing up. They were going out. There were amazing parties.
So we're in the sort of early 2000s.
Correct.
At this time. Okay.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah. And it was, truly wonderful. And then through that, I loved taking photographs, and I had a Facebook account, and, I was posting the photos that I'd taken of all my friends and everyone looking really glamorous. And I had, this growing number of people who were sort of following what I was doing and wanting to see what people were wearing and where they were. And, so someone said to me, you really ought to start a blog. And I thought, well, what's that? So I didn't even know what it was. I created this sort of, my own template, and I started the blog and I started posting photographs. And I'd always, it was always very tongue in cheek. The captions were quite amusing. It was never malicious, but always amusing.
So it's like Tatler's bystander.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it was purely accidental because I was just doing it for fun and just, sort of posting my friends.
Oh my God, where can we see it? Is there an archive? Tell me you put it in print or something.
Well, so I have, but that's interesting you say that because I really am very seriously considering doing a book. What's really interesting about it is that, because it was me taking the pictures of the people I know, I was getting a very different kind of photograph than perhaps a photographer might get. So I have this really amazing archive of photographs, which I really have been thinking about for a long time, but I really want to put that into action, is to create a beautiful book of those heyday years.
You must. I'm dying to see it. I'm sure everyone listening is too. So you ran that For how long, Red Velvet Nation?
That was just running simultaneously. It was not a business. It was purely for fun. So
there was never any revenue from it.
No, not at all. So I was really focusing with Ayman on developing the code.
And Ayman is not with us today. He is in Egypt.
Yeah.
Place I'm dying to go to. How did you meet? How did that relationship form?
We met because my ex-wife was a designer, and she was selling at Saks Fifth Avenue. On her 30th birthday, I threw a huge, beautiful party for her, and I'd invited the team from Saks Fifth Avenue. So one of them had said, "Oh, I have a wonderful friend, my best friend. Can I bring him along?" And I said, "Of course, with pleasure." And so that was Ayman, and he came to the party, and that's where we met. And then,
And what was he up to at that stage?
well, shortly after, I think he started working at Villa Moda.
Okay.
And so our relationship grew a bit more there because, he would invite us to all the events and shows and so forth. But it was still very formal. We didn't really know each other very well. And then, when he left there, and he had seen what I'd done with my ex-wife's brand, I'd really built it and developed it and grown it to a very well-known and established brand. And when he left Villa Moda, he was like, he wanted to start an agency. So he thought, I'm going to speak to Dipesh. And to cut a long story short, we had a meeting. He explained to me what he wanted to do. I was really impressed with him. My natural instinct is to steer clear of partnerships.
This is such an interesting point, isn't it? I nearly started my business with a friend. We weren't quite aligned on a few on our expectations.
Yeah.
And not that she was wrong and I was right. It just, It wasn't quite a match for various reasons.
Right.
It's a huge thing to go into.
A huge thing.
And I always say having a business partner, I sort of look longingly at people who do. I'm very lucky in that I have a partner in my husband who's been enormously supportive. I think to do it with no support,
Right.
Must be very, very hard. I've also seen plenty of people fall out.
Yeah, most people do. And, which is why I have this aversion to partnerships. I felt very, very confident in his integrity. I really did. And I went against everything that I believed in terms of partnerships. And I said, okay, let's do it. So we did. And, we started in a little cubbyhole in Media City. The thing that really, really kicked the ball off was, our first client was L'Oreal, so Kiehl's.
Interesting, because Kiehl's have sort of famously done so little.
Yeah.
So what interesting one to start with?
Yeah, up until that point, I think, especially with L'Oreal, I mean, the PR aspect was always kept in house. So it was a departure for them to do something like that, but it was a very successful one. We really launched that brand in a major way. And very shortly after we started, they said to us, we have an event that we need to do, and, we'd like you to do it, and, whatever. We have this budget and so forth. And of course, we weren't at that point an events agency. So we said, we just, we do PR. And they said, no, if you're our PR agency, then you must do the event too. So we're like, all right, we're going to do the event. So So we put our heads together, we put our contacts together, and we really put on, if I may say so, an incredible event to which everyone we knew was invited, including all the brands and the brand managers and the CEOs and so forth. Literally the next day, our phones were off the hook. From everyone, from all the brands calling and say, we want to do an event, we want to do PR, we want to do. So it just sort of naturally started rolling.
And you haven't looked back.
No.
Gosh, 15 nearly years later, your client is really, I often say that, but I never meant it more so than now.
That's why I think it's important to highlight that we really were very particular about who we worked with, how we worked, and the quality of the work that we were giving, because neither of us needed to do that, for bread and butter, because we had other things going on. So we did it purely for the passion of giving, bringing something better to the region in terms of communication. I was a client, he was a client, and we'd be invited to these really boring things in the mall where you'd have a juice and a canapé and have a look at the collection. And I was like, no, I'm investing so much in you. You need to do a little more.
Yeah, I had this exact conversation with someone the other day.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, literally, yeah. A juice in a canapé and an empty store is just not the one, is it?
No. So we really helped to change that narrative. And I think the other big milestone, and I might, people might question this, but I'm very clear on this, is that I really think we led the way in starting this whole movement, at least in this region, towards using personalities, individuals, as a means of communicating. So, whereas before it was always, advertising and models, and we started, so actually our first Kiehl's event that we did, we had very little budget, so we needed to make it work. And how do we make it work? So we made it a charity aspect. So we tied up with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which led to everyone offering their services for free. So we decided to do this incredible photo exhibition. We got a well-known photographer. We identified 12 really interesting, well-known personalities from, design, entertainment, and we did a photo exhibition. And actually, Simi Hayes, the two girls, Zarilla Abu Khadra, she was a friend of ours, and they were part of that photo exhibition. They were these really lovely, innocent, shy,
sweet
girls.
Tiny.
They were so beautiful. I mean, they had long, sort of curly hair, and they had this, they were beautiful, and they were young. But we had them as part of the exhibition. We had, this very famous artist. So we had various people. And we sold the images, towards the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So we created this very interesting thing, and we started, using personalities, not using, but sort of engaging personalities for hosting events and for being in campaigns for brands and so forth. So it started to change that narrative.
What would be the next chapter? I'm putting you on the spot here.
We joined an entrepreneurs organization called Endeavor. Endeavor is a really, really wonderful organization for entrepreneurs, which really helps them to organize and scale their business. And, we were nominated for it by Patrick Shalhoub. Patrick Shalhoub, as you know, is, a very well-known personality. He's a lovely man, and he's also a friend. So he has seen the growth of the Qode, and he said, listen, we have this organization, and I'd love to nominate you for it. I think you're perfect. This is very, very interesting. You have access to some of the captains of industry and some of the most amazing people who you wouldn't normally have access to. And once you're part of Endeavor, you're assigned a board, and this board consists of some of these captains of industry and the really, really accomplished people in business. And so it was a very, very, we felt very fortunate, but we also had the ability to sit with this incredible board and, every 2 months and talk about where we are, where we're going, how can we get better,
amazing,
and how can we scale the business. And I think
because you didn't have your own board, so it's a sort of mentorship, networking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic.
Absolutely. So that was a really, really poignant moment, because that really sort of changed the way the Qode became.
Can you talk to me, if the chapter was sort of expansion internationally, outside of Dubai? I mean, this is where you started.
Yes.
You're obviously within the GCC, and you operate even further than that.
Yeah.
Can you talk me through a little bit through that path and
Absolutely.
how that's come about?
Absolutely. So in Ayman's days at Villa Moda, the Villa Moda PR agency was Carla Otto. We had a lot of similar clients. So most of the clients that Carla had, we had too. So we had a lot of synergy anyway. And in fact, on many occasions, we would actually coordinate and work together for our clients, when they needed certain geographies and so forth. So there was already that working relationship in a way. And then when the Independence was founded, they had a conversation with us to say, we'd like to meet you in Paris when you're there for Fashion Week, and we have some things to discuss. And so they explained to us the plan for the Independence. We'd heard that the Independence was starting to do this.
And for people watching, listening that don't know what the Independence is, can you explain?
They're a group which has gone about acquiring the top creative agencies around the world to create the largest group of creative agencies. So,
and I mean, it's really well known if you're in, the industry that we are in.
Yeah.
what do you get from that? What's the business model of that? How does it work?
The name suggests that, everyone works independently in their markets. They do what they've always been doing, which is why they've been successful, and that's why they've been acquired. But you have the added advantage of synergies and working together on, much larger projects, and offering giving a much bigger offering to the clients. And with for example, a client can come to the group for an event or for PR, but then they come to one place rather than going to, and working with several different agencies. It makes it much more effective, much more efficient, and we within our group have the ability to share knowledge, share expertise, share resources.
So it's a bit like the Endeavour program. You moved into the independents now and filled that gap.
Yeah.
Are there 12 agencies, or have I made that up?
No, there's actually 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh well, not too far off. Not too far off. So that was the sort of start of the international expansion, you would say, being part of the independents.
Yes, absolutely.
And where did you go internationally after Dubai?
I mean, we still work independently in the region. So, we really cover the Middle East. So the UAE, all of the Gulf, Saudi Arabia, where we have an office in Riyadh. We have a team on the ground in Jeddah. India is definitely a focus where we've been already doing a lot of things, and it's a focus for the entire world now.
It is just
Yeah,
too fascinating for words, isn't it?
it is. But we've been doing things in India for quite some time. Yeah.
Yeah. Geographically, are you Saudi Arabia is growing for you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big focus for us, obviously, because it's still, still growing. There's a lot to be done there.
Yeah.
They have the appetite, to do so much. So it's really, really exciting, actually. So I think the immediate focuses are definitely, even Qatar, actually. So Saudi, Qatar, and India are the immediate focuses for us.
And what change would you see you've seen the most of? I mean, God, everything's changed, hasn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
the landscape for one, but
yeah, I mean, the landscape, it's literally gone from set. I remember the days when we had to drive in 4x4s because there were no roads, and I actually remember those days.
really,
Yeah. And to this incredible, unbelievable, oasis where, the whole world wants to come to. It's really extraordinary. I mean, we're so fortunate to live here, and I think about that every day. Like, it's such an incredibly unique place. You have safety, you have connectivity, you have everything that you could possibly need or want, in this lovely, small, amazing, glittering oasis,
Well, I don't live here, and you are very fortunate, I tell you.
No, we really are. And there's only great things to come. I really feel that,
What's the long-term plan for Qode? I mean, is there one? You're a team of how many with how many clients? Can you give us an idea of sort of the size of the business?
Yeah. I mean, we're a team now of over 100 people between Saudi and the UAE. The size of the business, in terms of clients, we have, with including projects and retainer clients, we easily, between 100 and 150. Yeah, so it's a lot of clients.
With different brands.
Yeah, and this includes all sorts of things, project clients and, events clients and retainers and so forth.
But that's sort of live clients.
Yeah, it's a lot of people to keep happy in challenging times sometimes.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of work, but that's the thing, for us, it doesn't feel like work. And that's why we're really able to deliver something very different. I always say that the Qode's unique in the sense that to have an environment in our company which is everyone's happy place, as opposed to, when people go to work and like, oh, I've got to go to work, that I would never want that to be the case. So we're really particular about that. And, we really take measures to make sure that it is. So it's always lighthearted. Everyone's joking, everyone's laughing. And, the other thing is that we've always been very accessible to absolutely everyone in the company. So there's none of this, I can't speak to them or I have to speak to them. There was none of that. I mean, people can literally just walk into my room and say, Dipesh, I need to speak to you. Can I speak to you? And I'm like, absolutely. It's always been that way. The same,
I believe you.
And the same for Ayman. And, and I think that's made such a difference because people feel much more connected.
And looking forward, we could be here for hours if I started to ask you about sort of evolving into digital and that journey.
Yeah.
But I mean, like us in our industry, I'm sure you're, relentlessly pivoting, evolving
Yeah.
to the changing times landscape.
Yeah. Well, you have to. I mean, that's life. I mean, life evolves.
Yeah.
Everything evolves within life, and whether that be media, whether that be anything. So, and you have to always, change with the times. And I think being accepting of change is really the first hurdle, because, a lot of people are not accepting of change.
And do you have a plan for the code for the future?
I mean, it's to just keep growing. So really the immediate plan is to develop Saudi and India. And, actually Ayman is working on developing other markets too currently. So that's very much part of the plan. It's keeping us extremely busy, both at the code level, but also at the group level, because Ayman and I are also now, part of the group. So it's, it's just to keep going and growing those geographies. We have a lot of potential.
How have you maintained your relationship with Ayman?
Truly, and touch wood, but very blessed. But Ayman and I are really, really good friends. So and the thing is that as with any friendship or any relationship, you have compromises, right? So and that changes depending on the moment, that changes depending on the time, whatever it might be. So as long as both parties, at least in a relationship of two people, are willing to understand each other's viewpoints and compromise and give way, it works, and it can only work if you have that kind of mindset, which is why I think a lot of partnerships go south, because everyone wants to fight their case. Sometimes it's okay not to fight your case. Sometimes it's okay to say, well, they're a smart person. They know what they're doing. So let's go with it.
Yeah.
So I...
respect is so important, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I respect him massively. If there's one person I would say that's been, it's making quite emotional, but
I know. See,
if there's one person that I would say has really, really inspired me, it's him. He's extraordinary, and his work ethic and his his dedication to people and making them happy and all, it's amazing, truly.
Would you say you have similar skill sets?
We are so different. Ayman and
But
I,
probably so alike, but probably with so many values.
in our humor, we're like exactly the same. So
Yeah.
we really I mean, we can look at each other and we know exactly what's but in terms of everything else, we are chalk and cheese. I mean, you can't get two more different people. Like, he'll say black, I'll say white. I mean, literally on every single point, but somehow it works because it's really about respect. It's about the compromise, as I said, and it's about, just allowing people to be who they are.
It is a massive success story. There's no denying it. I mean, your reputation speaks for itself. Have there been moments where it hasn't felt that? I mean, you touched on COVID. I know it's something that's...
So I would say COVID is the only time, and that's obviously common to a lot of people.
Yeah.
COVID is the only time where, and even so, I think I would say it was a minor blip. Whereas a lot of people, sadly experience really huge downturns and so forth. For us, it was honestly a minor blip, because I think it was about how we managed it, but also how our incredible team, and I need to really highlight that, because the people that work with us are extraordinary, and honestly, and at that moment really made us realize even more how amazing they are.
And since then, you haven't looked back?
We really haven't. No, it's been amazing. I mean, it's been extraordinary, and I'm so thankful and grateful for where we've come.
What's your view of the fashion and luxury industry?
I'm so glad you asked me that question, because I've been dying to answer it. I have a very clear view on this. I feel very sad for what I think has become to luxury, because luxury is typically, and by its definition, something that's difficult to attain, that's hard to achieve, that's rare, that's prohibitive perhaps in its rarity, in general, right? However, I think now it's become just a lot of expensive stuff. It's like mass manufactured product which is sold as luxury purely because it's expensive. A lot more people have a lot more money today, so they have accessibility to all of this stuff. So I think, for business reasons or for whatever, for growth of business, I think, sometimes those floodgates have been opened, and unfortunately we've now moved from being luxurious to just really expensive things.
Yeah.
And I feel that is a little bit tragic, because if you ask me today, what do I think is luxurious, it's very hard to pinpoint, anything anything specific that you can find that, in terms of brands, in terms of, I would say the only thing you can talk about is investing in your health, where that's a whole shift from, actual what we perceive as luxury to, this is a new kind of luxury.
In terms of your own views of luxury,
Yeah.
how does that shape you as a consumer? You've obviously got incredible personal style.
Thank you.
Have you changed your own habits, I suppose, as time's gone on? And I suppose I would say I try and buy less but better, and that's how I'm sort of tackling, because I do feel the same as you, and we work in the industry that we work,
Yep.
and we're all in the business of selling something.
Yeah.
But there's a balance, and I suppose for me it's sort of trying to buy a bit less, rewear more,
Yeah.
buy better. Has your
I've
own...
always done that. So it's really, again, I've had this conversation the other day. I'm still wearing clothes that I bought in 1987
Love that.
because, I buy better, smarter. Sure, I spend on things that I love, but they're not, things that I'm going to wear for a moment and then get rid of. They're really things that are going to grow with me. So I have no shame in saying that I literally have clothes that I bought in 1987, which I'm still wearing today.
Love that.
I do shop, of course, and I like to keep up with, but I buy in a way that's sustainable, that I actually can wear for many years to come, and really enjoy, and I do enjoy. And what really gives me joy, and this is truly the thing that gives me joy, is that my children, who are my son who's 17 and my daughter who's 19, whenever I go to my cupboard to, I'm going out for an event or something and I'm trying to find something and I'm like, oh, where is it? Sure enough, you will find it on the backs of either my son or my daughter or in their cupboards. And I love it. It gives me so much joy, because then you really understand that, what you have bought is current.
Yeah.
It's still current.
Yeah.
And they love it and they're still enjoying it. So you don't feel so bad about spending a lot of them.
That's how you're justifying it, basically. I'm so with you. My 14-year-old borrowed my Gucci Jackie bag that my mum gave me for my 21st the other day.
Yeah.
And off she sat.
Yeah.
And it gave me...
It's great.
As long as it's put back. Yeah. That's my rule.
Always looked after, because you have to appreciate what you have. And
absolutely. If I find it on her bedroom floor, there will be hell to pay. But I'm so with you. That sort of... It just shows you that nothing is out of fashion, does it?
Yeah.
It really is. I bet there's all those photos you took back in the day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've got some amazing photographs. And it reminds me of some of the moments which are really extraordinary.
Yeah, it's made sick coming around. As a man with a team of over 100 and clients of a similar number, how do you look after your own health? I know it's a real cliche, self-care, but I'm genuinely interested. You look great. You obviously work incredibly hard. You've got a massive business, travel loads.
Yes.
I was, as I said, watching this documentary talking about cortisol and the impact on your organs, and oh gosh, it sort of really runs through actually, and your cells need to regenerate and rest. And what does a day look like for you? And without being really cliched, I hate to ask that question, how do you stop? I don't really, and I sort of thrive on being busy. You're probably a bit the same.
I am, but I do make time. I really do make time for my exercise and of course my diet. So I would say it's probably about 10 years ago, 10 or perhaps 11 years ago, we signed a client which was a sort of very luxury transformation gym, which was from the UK. So, they had this really amazing program. They would transform people and their fitness and their health and all that. And so they, and at that time I wasn't particularly fit or healthy.
Can I ask the name?
Yes, it was called Embody.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they said to me, why don't you do the program, and let's see how it works on you. We can document it and so forth. And at the time I thought it was probably not a bad idea. And so, it really was the push that I needed really to get going. And I signed up for the program, and I started to see myself transform.
And was it one of those hardcore, you turn up every day?
Yeah.
They're measuring you, they're
Exactly.
yeah.
Your diet, your measurements.
You've got a nanny, basically.
The photographs, which were really soul destroying, because, you see yourself, right? And you think, oh my God, how did I do that to myself? And that moment really was the moment that it changed the way I look at my health and my fitness. And it really, I said to myself, look, I want to be around for as long as possible for my children. So I need to be as healthy as possible for them. And so I really, really made the effort. Touch wood, it's still paying off. And till this day, I have literally been consistent. So
So yeah, what does sleep, food, exercise look like?
so I wake up early, always. I mean, that's naturally. So I usually get up like 6 o'clock, 6:30, something around there. And then, but I take my time. My exercise is not in the morning. My consumption is mainly, lots of vegetables and fruits and grilled fish and, that sort of thing. So, I've got an oil pressing machine at home. So I press my own mustard oil, my own sesame oil, almond oil, all of those things. And then, we use whichever one to cook or dressings or whatever. So as far as possible, I'm trying to even keep the ingredients clean, which is really important because...
Well, they say, don't they, if you just go back to the raw and just the less anyone else touched it, the better it is for you.
Absolutely.
And it's that simple, isn't it? And what exercise do you do?
So I run. I go for walks. I am in the gym every day as well. So those are the basic things. And then, of course, I like to play tennis. So that I don't do as much as I'd like, but I do like tennis too. So I play that from time to time.
Me too. Not enough time in the day.
I know, right? And also spend time with my children. So, my daughter's away, but my son, I make sure to spend time with him every day. And, yeah.
There's lots we haven't covered, but in the interest of time, if you were to share some life lessons to inspire other people listening, I mean, it's never too late to make changes, to go for it. What would those be? And they could be in as general or as sort of niche as you like. But
well, I don't see myself as being any great person to give advice, but
I think many people would think differently about it.
But I think it's really the basic things. So for example, I think one of the lessons I always tell my children is that so much happens for the detriment when there's misinformation. So people say something and everyone believes it, right? I always tell my children that unless you have experienced it for yourself or that you've verified the facts for yourself, then that's not the case. I truly believe that there's so much destruction because of it, in various things, in various ways.
Can I ask, how do you feel you brought up grounded children in the world today, full of noise and social media?
That's a really good question, and honestly, I feel lucky and I feel blessed because my children have turned out the way they have. They truly are a blessing. I've been a very involved father from the day they were born. We did everything. So like literally I bathed them, I fed them, I changed all their nappies, I stayed up with them all night. Like I was with both of them very, very involved. And I think because of that, we have a very strong bond. Even till now, my son, who's a boy, he's a boxer. He still tells me, "I love you, Dad," and he still comes and gives me hugs and kisses, and that shows a lot of confidence and love. Even when he's with his friends.
Yeah.
So it's that's something that it doesn't just come naturally. With most teenagers, especially if they're boys.
I love that. I'm sort of visualizing a sort of grown young man. Like publicly loving his father.
Absolutely.
And that's really cool.
That's so cool. And I say that actually to my wife. I say that all the time. I'm like, it's really amazing how, and she does. So she says it's because of how you've been so involved with them that it's not even a thing. I think honesty, which is a very basic thing, just fact checking, and I think just try to do. And this sounds cliche and cheesy, perhaps, but with everything that you do, try and understand what it is you're doing. Try and be good and try and understand the effect it may have on other people, because you want to bring good energy, not bad. And I think energy is for me one of the most important things.
I could not agree more. That is
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
my philosophy. You clearly have amazing energy. You are
Thanks.
incredibly approachable. I'm sure that's been a huge part of why
Yeah, people can.
you have such.
Although actually, so I'm not on social media anymore, but when I was, the comment I would get is that people, I think that people feel intimidated by you, or that you don't seem approachable, but actually in reality, people find me very approachable.
Oh, well, I'm here to stay quite the opposite. And I'm sure that loyalty you have from your team,
They're wonderful.
and all those long-standing clients, is testament to that. Also, Dipesh, thank you.
It's my pleasure,
I feel
really.
very inspired having sat here and talked to you. And
Thank you.
what an incredible story. And
Thank you
please,
for giving me the opportunity.
well, thank you. And please publish that coffee table book.
I'm definitely going to do that. I mean, it's something that, I've been thinking about over and over again, and it really highlights the heyday of how it was here then. So it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
I think that needs to be on everyone's coffee tables, and
I hope so.
fabulous event. Put on one code to launch it. That's it for today.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed that, then do tell your friends to listen too. Do please subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps our podcast be found, and we'll be back soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.